What was sort of the value proposition that really cemented what Bitcoin could be for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, when I heard Bitcoin, people talk about it kind of on the fringe. Nobody in the traditional world was talking about it. Nobody in traditional investing was talking about it. Like my wife's friends were talking about it. Some of the people who were in technology or computers or, that world. And I just ignored it. I dismissed it as, yeah, it's just, it's a online casino. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I didn't do any research on it. So that was back in 2014, 2015, 2016, somewhere in that area. And then it popped back up on my radar. And guys, this is one of the most painful things to admit and realize, but back in 2018, I had a little bit of discretionary capital and I wanted to put it to work, and I wanted to go out of the risk curve, somewhere outside of the things I was doing that were normal, right? So not my house investment, or not investment in stocks, or not investments in private equity, but something a little bit further on the risk curve. And Bitcoin popped up on my radar, and I was like, I got to check this thing out because this is not going away. It just run up into the 20,000 plus range, and it come all the way back down under 5,000. I thought, this is someplace where I think that this is real. And the funny thing is being an investor and seeing it run up like that and then come back in, I felt like that was a healthy pullback. And my immediate reaction was, this is a healthy pullback, and this is something that it warrants me taking a look at here. So that's kind of a funny thing, right? So, and then I did as what you do normally when you're an institutional investor, and I went to the so-called experts on the street. And since Bitcoin is technology related, I went to the technology analysts and experts in investing, and those who were deep in that industry and that sector. So, and across the board, they were like, it's not really worth anything. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's just, it has no underlying value. And I dismissed it again, and I just let it go. It's so painful to think about because, thank you so much, the experts. Thank you so much for warding me off at $3,500. That was so helpful. Thank you. Because, then I could get in back in 2020 and 2021 when it was up in the 40s and 50,000 range. And that's where I could start buying it. So, but the saying goes in our circles, everybody gets the price they deserve. And I deserve that price. I was arrogant, I was ignorant, and I deserve it. And so, but that forced me to dig really deep in and understand it, truly understand it, before I started buying it. And so I didn't buy it on speculation first. I really started digging in on it. And so flash forward, this is a long answer to your question. I'm sorry. And if it becomes a
No,
monologue,
please. We are loving this.
okay. So flash forward, and we hit the pandemic, and I'm leaving my situation and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And my son, who's in college, he said, and he's got a bunch of super intelligent computer science major friends, and they're like, you've got to check out. He said, you've got to check out this crypto again, Dad. I think you ought to give it another chance. And he said, crypto. And so he convinced me to buy some Ethereum and maybe Cardano. And so I started digging into it, and it was within weeks that I was like, okay, I've got to go back into Bitcoin because that's where the reality is for me. And so, I started moving all my assets that I accumulated into, well, not all my assets. Let me back up. What I had bought in Ethereum and Cardano, I moved it all over into Bitcoin, and I started digging in. And that's really where I started understanding what it was about. Flash forward a few weeks or maybe a couple of months by then, where I watched all the Michael Saylor videos. I read some books. I'd seen a whole bunch of trading videos on YouTube, and then I stumbled across this Pump interview with Jeff Booth. And you guys may have heard this before, but Jeff, I sat there I had my laptop and I was on the edge of the bed, and I just started this video. We're about to eat dinner, and it was about 25 minutes into it, and I just stopped and I said, okay, I've got to get my wife to see this. She's got to see this. So I said, Vicky, come here, look at this, watch this. And we sat down on the edge of the bed with my laptop and we watched it all the way through. And at the end of it, she looked at me and she's like, do we own enough? So I watched it again. I really, Jeff he's an important person in this space for me, and I've gotten to know him pretty well, and he's a great guy. But his explanation resonated with me like no other explanation, because I come from the world of institutional investing and an understanding that global macro approach of the deflationary forces of technology versus the inflationary forces of money manipulation in the Fed, and how those are kind of diametrically opposed, and how eventually they'll crash, and they will crash into each other, and there will be hopefully not, but there will be some sort of massive change. Hopefully it's not catastrophic. Hopefully we can kind of run operating systems alongside for a while, but that really that made it click for me. And at that point I was like, okay, that's it. I'm all in on this. I need to just find a way that I can get into this space and help people understand it. And this is where I want to spend my time for the remainder of my career. So